I'm Michael Avery, the Director of Catholic Education for the Diocese of Darwin, covering all of the Northern Territory. And it's an exciting opportunity to share a little bit about the Territory with you. I've been in this job for 10 years, and one of the absolute sources of joy for me is to see people coming to work in our schools and the new energy and enthusiasm that it gives to them, working in completely different circumstances to what they're used to, being challenged more strongly than they've ever been in their practices and habits, but also being highly rewarded for their work. And I'd encourage you to give some thought to working in the Northern Territory, and we would look forward to sharing some more of our journey with you.
I think for myself and for all the staff that I've spoken to, that the key success factor is resilience and developing resilience. Understanding that our challenge as teachers is to connect to the students, and if we're not connecting to the students, it's about creating another way that will enable us to do that, to focus on a core purpose. As a leader too in the school, one of my key challenges was learning appropriate ways to communicate and meet with people to seek their input, because the true vision and mission is us to work together for the benefit of the Tiwi people, and I needed to work out a way to do that so we would get that buy-in and that input from the local people.
My name is Annalise McCurry, and 6 years ago I moved up from Victoria to Tiwi Islands, to Bathurst Island, and I taught in the community of Niu, or Woodamyanga, at Saviour Catholic College. So I taught there for 4 years and taught students from Year 7 to Year 12. Variety of subjects. My background in mainstream teaching has been teaching senior English and literature, but I taught a lot of different things on Bathurst Island. I had done a lot of travelling and working overseas and taught ESL overseas. I was teaching around Indigenous issues and context, and realised that I didn't really have much of an understanding of that, so I thought it would be a good idea to see and experience some of the hidden pockets in Australia, and to gain a better understanding of what's happening in those areas. So the personal challenges were exciting, but they were things like being very isolated, living somewhere that can be cut off. So in the first term that I started teaching, we had 2 cyclones, which meant that we were trapped on the island and there was no food barge coming, and it was stormy and very kind of crazy weather. It's isolated from family and friends. It's hard to get to Victoria sometimes. It is a long way away, even though it's only a short flight to Darwin. And turning up to a place where you don't know anyone, it's a very different culture, a very different environment, a very different lifestyle. So that was challenging, but really interesting as well. And professionally, the challenges were around teaching students who have not grown up necessarily with a literate background, so it's different to ESL teaching. They haven't grown up reading necessarily. And because my background is secondary English, I had to learn how to teach reading and writing to secondary students, which was challenging, and also try and discover ways to deliver age-appropriate curriculum to students who had low literacy. The personal rewards were having the opportunity to be in a bit of a hidden pocket in Australia and being so very accepted by the people, by the local people, who are willing to share their culture and help. I guess they helped me find an understanding about, issues in Australia, issues within Aboriginal communities. And the students were wonderful. They're very, very keen to learn. They're very engaged, and they're really accepting. So the relationships that I formed living on the island, both with local and non-local staff. So, I've made friendships that, through hardship, will last forever. And professionally, having to really delve into my teaching strategies for students who have low literacy and very varied literacy in one classroom, and to learn how to teach reading and writing. It's been a huge professional learning curve, which is, something that I was really keen for.
From when I first graduated from teaching many years ago, I was really interested in teaching and working in a remote community. The main reason I wanted to do this was to challenge myself in a new context, professionally and personally, and What's been wonderful being up here is the big warm welcome we get from the local staff, as well as the local kids and the local community. I think they're really respectful of the position of education and the importance of education in helping the Tiwi people move forward.
Hi, I'm Siobhan. I taught in a remote community in Wadair for 2 years. I moved out there with my husband. He was working in finance at the school, and we really enjoyed our experience. I had grade 5 and 6 both years, and I got to build some really great relationships and form some great friendships. While I was still at university, I went on a placement to another Indigenous community. I really enjoyed it, and I didn't really know what I was expecting when I went up there. I learnt a lot. I sort of began to value Indigenous education and see the gaps that we had in terms of education down south and then education in communities and things. I hadn't been from Darwin, so I learnt a lot there and decided to give it a go. Personally, it was being isolated from my friends and from my family and my normal network of supports. I physically was so far away from them, but obviously I still was able to be in contact with them, but it wasn't really the same, so I was a bit anxious about that and a bit worried. And professionally, because it was my first year teaching when I went out there, I was hesitant about that, not knowing whether I should go out with no experience or whether I should sort of stay and work in another school setting first. It all worked out really great, and I had more than enough opportunities for professional development, and yeah, I don't regret a thing. The kids were the biggest reward. Seeing them learn and seeing them engage in English learning tasks and developing in all areas of their learning was really rewarding. Being there for them, but being so much more than a teacher, was really special, and I don't think I'd have that anywhere else. I think that because it was so far away and because you were away from your normal support network, you really had to build strong relationships, and that was in the community with the locals, but also with the other teaching staff and with the other school staff and community staff. We had to form really strong relationships just so we could stay afloat. I've made some great friendships, and I still am in contact with a lot of them now. Now that I'm living in Darwin, they come in and stay with us, so it's really good to have those friendships still. So that was definitely a personal plus.
Something that's constantly rewarding is the response and the feedback from community. Education's highly valued here, and the local people come in to support the school and they acknowledge the contribution we make. All the teachers, as they walk around town, are very much supported and welcomed by the community and receive that feedback of thank you for the work you're doing in the community. It's also an opportunity for me to contribute to some of Australia's most vulnerable people in a really true and authentic way, in a way that I see as a privilege and a wonderful opportunity that very few people have.